Yep.
What's up, all you motorcycle enthusiasts, and welcome to the Vtwin Life here on YouTube. We talk motorcycles powered by those V-twins, what fuels our passion, why we enjoy it so much. Vtwin Life is brought to you by these two great companies, Crash Inc. Clothing and Wild Ass Seats. Hey, you want to add some comfort to your ass when you're out riding, whether you're a 400-mile guy or maybe a guy that's pushing 1,000 plus, or female rider for that matter? Hey, check out wild-ass.com and add some comfort to your ass. Can't forget Crashing Clothing, that Northwest brand out of the Pacific Northwest. Hey, these guys got a lot of great stuff, from t-shirts to hats, raincoats, you name it. Hey, they can get you covered. Check out crashingclothing.com. Now, let's dive into another milepost of the Vtwin Life. Hey, what's up, all you motorcycle enthusiasts, and welcome back to another milepost of the Vtwin Life, where we talk motorcycles powered by those V-twins, what fuels our passion, why we enjoy so much. Tonight, this is going to be an awesome milepost. We're at milepost 57 with a legendary guy that has built quite a name in this industry. You got Mr. Brian Klock, founder of Klock Werks. Hey, Brian, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule and coming on here and hanging out with us tonight.
I'm honored to do it. You know, we just got back from Daytona, and my team is still en route with the truck and trailer on the way back. And you might have seen Craig from Wild Ass posting as he looked across the aisleway. It poured there on Saturday. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I seen that video. That was insane. That was some serious rain coming down.
Seems like you guys had rain all week.
Had a good run the week prior and all week, and the weekend prior was beautiful. So nothing wrong with that.
Hey, so, had some good weather. I mean, you get in these areas, you always can't control what Mother Nature is going to throw at you, but
exactly. At least it wasn't snowing.
That's what I drove back in.
8 inches back here in South Dakota, and so these things are not working. So I'm going to bail on that.
Okay. Hey, that's
is the microphone still okay?
Oh yeah, we got you good.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm honored to be on here today. It's exciting for me. There's lots going on. We're celebrating 25 years of Klock Werks. And if you'd have told me back in the day when I just wanted to, customize motorcycles and build cool bikes, that someday I'd be the flare windshield guy, I would own a phone mount company, and I'd be looking at being in this thing for 25 years, I would have said, no way. Absolutely no way.
Hey, well, congratulations. I mean, obviously, it says something for the quality of your product and what you put out, to last this long and build such a reputable name within that industry. Congratulations on that.
I really feel like I'm just honored to be surrounded by so many good people. There's whether it's, like Dan Cheeseman was one of my right-hand man. And I mean, he's like my little brother, and came to me right out of college and said, I want to do what you do. And I said, well, that's great. But, all I can tell you is I'll starve before you ever go hungry, because it's not really, everybody talks about, motorcycle world and, fame and fortune. Well, there's a lot of fame and not that much fortune. So, you just kind of deal with it. But so many people have come in and out of my life and in and out of the chapters of Klock Werks that all contributed. And, I'm thankful to each and every one of those people, because that's really what it takes, right? It takes a team to win the Super Bowl. And, if you've been in an NFL team for 25 years, or the coach of it or the owner of it for 25 years, you've seen a lot of players come and go. And we're very fortunate that we have such a great team. So
that's really cool. That's awesome. And, it's a very true statement. I mean, one person can't carry a team. That's why it is a team. It takes more, it takes more people than just one to make it go somewhere.
Well, and for us, it's one of those deals where I've always talked about that, and always told my group that, I said it, the good Lord didn't design you to live on an island. He never said, hey, go get a bunch of guns and a bunch of drugs and live on an island and your problems will all go away. No, he designed you to live in community. And luckily I'm in the motorcycle community. I mean, what a great place to have the camaraderie and the people that come in and out of this business to support you, to kick your ass, to make you better, and to push you. And, I don't know where else, I couldn't imagine any other life other than motorcycle people.
That's
That's
awesome.
very true. It is an amazing community to be part of. I mean, I grew up in the community, started in my young years of when I started riding when I was around 5, and then, racing motocross. I went into hill climbing, and I mean, I can remember events where I crashed, busted a piece off my bike. Some of the guys that ride with, it's like, hey, you can do your next run. I'm like, nah, I'm, broke, busting my handlebars are bent. I mean, I can't fix them. They're totally trash. And I mean, I've had guys stripping down their bikes just to give me the parts so I can get one more ride because, I mean, we're all competing against each other, but you're a family.
Absolutely. And, Brian, right before we came on, you said something about why we ride. And, my family's appearance in that epic movie that happened in like 2013, I believe it was. And when those guys first approached us, we got inducted in the Sturgis Hall of Fame in 2012. And as we were sitting there in Sturgis, Laura, my ex-wife, said, well, I've told these guys we'd come by and film this thing. I'm like, okay, well, everybody's making a movie about motorcycles. Of course, it's a hot thing, right? And so we go there, and, I would say to this day, I'm the biggest jerk that ever lived that got to be a part of that movie, because I was so busy. We were doing so much stuff that I just kind of went, okay, I'll do it for you, but that's it, right? They sent us the trailer. I didn't know it was a trailer. They just sent us something to look at. And I kind of blew it off, and finally Laura came in one day and said, you got to watch this right now, please. And I'm like, okay. So I watched it, and all of a sudden the trailer starts playing, and it's my voice behind it. And I'm like, oh, I'm such a jackass. Like I just blew it, And so I just thought, man, I don't know what I can do for these guys, right? The footage they had was great. And I just prayed about it. And finally I called them. I said, you know what? I don't have a check that I can write you for 10 grand or whatever to even help you on your movie way, right? But what I can do is if you'll meet me in Long Beach at the International Motorcycle Show, I'll introduce you to some people. Bring your laptop and your headphones, and I'll see you there. They came in, and we literally walked through the entire show, and I introduced them to the littlest guy who built speedway bikes, to Progressive Insurance, to Indian Motorcycle, to Harley-Davidson, and just I pitched them everywhere I went, right? To the, guys I knew that drag raced or raced at Bonneville, to the guys I knew that, ran the entire thing, right? Ran some big company. And we got done, and Brian Carroll said to me, he goes, did you really know all those people? I said, nope. Some of them I just felt like it was a push and we should go in there. And he's like, really? Man, you really did a great job for us today, and you really sold us. He goes, how did you know that was okay? I said, well, that's because, that's what I prayed about. That's really where I was at with it. I just thought that's how I can help you.
That's awesome.
And fast forward to, those guys winning the award for the AMA Motorcyclist of the Year, because that was such a feel-good family movie and did so much for motorcycling. So if you know somebody who's, never been on a motorcycle, is thinking about getting on a motorcycle, maybe your friends who hate motorcycles even, right? Let them watch that movie. I know it's available on iTunes and some of those other channels, but Why We Ride is still as valid then as it is today. And it talks about camaraderie of motorcycling. And the one thing I'm going to give away a secret here, Brian Carroll. So if you're listening, I apologize, but I've probably seen the movie 4 or 5 times, right? Before Brian and I were chatting about it. And I said, just the visualization of it, it makes you feel like you're on a motorcycle. I love it, right? He goes, well, notice this, Brian. He said, all of the interviews with people happen indoors. The rest of it is outdoors. And so now you're going to want to go back and watch it again. And you're going to be like, oh no, look at that. And sure enough, but that's what it feels like, right? So when you get outside on a motorcycle, there's no roof. Things are open. You have all these senses coming at you, and it's epic. I mean, and so it's really why we love it, And so I just thought I'd share that with you, Brian, as I was thinking about why we ride when you mentioned it before we came on.
I appreciate it. When I first met my wife, I made her watch it, and she had only rode a motorcycle like once in her life as a kid. And the thing that I enjoyed so much about that movie is the couples talking about their relationships and how motorcycles have changed their relationships, which is what it's done for me. And being able to talk to you is just really great. Like I said, before, I have the movie poster, sitting in my living room, and it's just
awesome.
It was such a great movie to inspire so many people because it covered so many genres too. It wasn't just, oh, you need a Harley to be a rider, or,
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you're into a dirt bike or a street bike or MotoGP, or if you're, going to rallies. Like, it's just it's a thing. It's like,
yeah,
motorcycling is the thread that, ties us all together.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awesome. And how you're touching on the senses. Riding a motorcycle or traveling on a bike is so much more intimate than being in a car. I mean, you got the wind, the smells, the areas, because you can travel through different areas of the country, or it's not so much even the whole country. I mean, different areas you can get of where you live. Say, going through the forest, you can smell, the trees, different types. You can hit the farmlands. Okay. So you're not going to hit some, not the most pleasant smells, but it is so much more personable.
No, for sure.
Awesome.
And even like when you go to Sturgis and all of a sudden you drop down in some little canyon and you get that chill of cold air and you come back out of it and you're like, woo, that's crazy, right?
Oh yeah. You find the little, what I call them, like microclimates.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be hot, nice and warm and whatnot. And I had that going over Lolo Pass in Montana. It was beautiful coming up out of Missoula. It's just awesome. It was like, I think it was about 105. I get to the top and all of a sudden it turned black and ended up in a downpour. I'm like, God, this sucks. And then about 10 seconds later, I'm like, hey, this feels kind of nice. I'm cooling down. And as soon as you get down over the other side, you hit the canyons of Idaho and welcome to the oven. And 10 minutes later, you're dry.
Right. That's Vanessa, my wife, and I, after we started dating, I got the opportunity to go on the Kyle Petty ride in 2017.
Oh,
and
that'll be awesome.
I've been asked a bunch of times by Click Baldwin and some other folks I know who go on it. And I was like, I don't have time. I can't make the time. I won't make the time, whatever the deal was. Right. And I got a call from a gentleman who has since passed. His name is David Andreas. And David reached out to me, and I was in the Minneapolis airport, if I remember right. And he was skiing in British Columbia or somewhere, right? And he goes, hey, Brian, he said, the board has met. We'd like you to be the angel rider for 2017. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, that means I'm picking up the bill. I'm like, no way. It's like 10 grand, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, but the board has also stated that you probably won't take the time off to go with us. I literally just stood there with tears in my eyes, and I'm like, you know what? Click Baldwin, who was a dealer in Gastonia, North Carolina, went on it all the time. And him and Maury and Terry Campbell and those guys and Maury Irvin. And I was like, that sucks. I missed that opportunity, and I wish I would have done it. And I said, so if I can ride in Click's honor, I'll go. Right. So I rode from Mitchell, South Dakota to Portland, Oregon. And David and his crew was coming up from Florida through Nebraska and meeting some guys. So I hooked up with those guys in Wyoming. And I rode from here and in torrential rain, 75 miles after I left Mitchell, South Dakota, coming across the river in Chamberlain. It starts pouring. Then I get into Wyoming and it's hailing. And I'm just getting the crap beat out of me. And I finally have to stop in this, I don't know, it was like one of those places where they pile up gravel and sand to put on the side of the road in the snow. And I literally drove my Indian Roadmaster up on the gravel pile, hung out there until it was all said and done. And then the next day, I met up with those guys. I got there at 2:00 that night, 6:30 in the morning. I met them for breakfast at the hotel, got a warm shower and finally warmed up a little bit. And we took off for Portland. We got into Portland and I met so many great people. And the thing that it struck me about that ride or that group was how they operate, right? If you you have to bring your luggage down to the hotel, front of the hotel at 6 a.m. And it doesn't matter if you're, you know, one of the wealthiest guys ever on that ride, whether you're a Herschel Walker, former Heisman Trophy winner, Dallas Cowboy, or whether you're a bum like me from Mitchell, South Dakota, we all got to get our bag down there by 6 o'clock. If you don't, you got to figure out your own way to get it to the next town.
Oh,
so that's super cool, right? Because you just become a flat out motorcyclist. It doesn't matter who you are, what your status is, you're a motorcyclist. And so you got 175, 180 bikes on this ride, whatever it is, right? It's a lot. And very organized. And they tell you, you know, if you're going down the road and you get separated from your people, don't worry. You'll meet them up with them at dinner. Like, it doesn't matter. And then as we're going down the road, if your buddy crashes, just keep going. We've got a chase truck. We've got stuff there to take care of them. We'll let you know if there's a problem or you need to pull off the ride. But at the end of the day, we need one target on the side of the road, not 15. And I'm like, man, that's good logic, right? And then they would send people ahead of you and pull into the gas station. If you're the third person back, you have to take your gas cap off and be ready to fuel so that you're not wasting all this time trying to fuel.
Oh, that's well thought out.
End of the night, they would say, you know, and so the $10,000 covers someone taking your bag there. There'll be a truck there with snacks and water and all these kind of things after you get your bike gas cap off. They may even call the truck stop and say, put some porta potties outside because we got all these people coming in and we want to make sure they get through fast enough. And so it's totally worth it, right? And the idea of it is, you know, your hotels are taken care of, all your stuff's taken care of. So when you pull into a town, your name is on a table and there's a card there with your name on it, your room, your stuff, and they just hand it to you and you go right to your room. You're not waiting ever. So it's the slickest, coolest thing you've ever seen. But the bond that goes between you and the people you're riding with is crazy because you're going to get screwed up in the traffic thing. You're going to ride with somebody you've never ridden with before, and you're going to knock down 300-400 miles, and you're going to be like, wow, that was pretty fun. You know, thanks for riding by me, right?
That's awesome.
And so it's really an epic experience. And Vanessa, that was the first time she'd ever ridden a bagger. One of the ladies got hurt on the ride, said, Vanessa, you got your license. Why don't you jump on my bagger? So John Christner went front and I took the back and I said, John, will you help me out here? He said, yeah, turn on your intercom and we'll talk. Right. So we just put Vanessa in the middle on this street glide and she jammed through, you know, I don't know where we were, somewhere in Montana. And she was, you know, jamming through the mountains and coming down these windy, twisty roads and riding that thing like a boss. And when we got done and got all the way to Milwaukee, we rode from Portland to Milwaukee. I'll never forget. We were sitting there with Bill Davidson in Minneapolis, and he was going to ride with us from Minneapolis to Milwaukee. And we were joking around, and I said something to Bill. I said, yeah, you know, please forgive me. I'm on an Indian today. And I said, but you know how it is. They're paying the bills right now because they sell our windshields, right? And Vanessa, he got up to go to the bathroom or get some more food or something. She goes, why did you say that? And why was that so funny to you guys? I said, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I should have introduced you. I said, that's Bill Davidson from Harley-Davidson. She goes, oh my God, no way. How do you even know him? Right. And I said, well, I know him through, you know, going to a bunch of different events, and his dad, Willie G, was really, you know, instrumental in my confidence early on when I went to some shows and did some things. And so, you know, that just tells you, whether it's John Christner, whether it's Kyle Petty, Richard Petty, we rode with on that ride, to Bill Davidson, you know, it just so many good people. It's unbelievable. You know, motorcycles really have been truly the blessing in my life.
That had to be just an awesome experience.
Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling, but I've got so many stories.
So cool.
No, this is amazing.
For 25 years of, you know, experiences, and that one's pretty fresh because that was only 5 years ago. So,
well, okay, let's go there. When did the bug, you know, come into your life for two wheels? Where'd that start? I
was in fourth grade, and my dad bought me a Honda QA50, a 1970-71 Honda QA50, and Hondas are supposed to be red. My Honda was green, And that was a thing. They actually made a green Honda QA50. So for a bunch of years, I searched for one. And yes, I do now own a Honda QA50. That's green.
That's awesome.
But my dad got me that little mini bike, and there was a vacant lot between our house and the neighbor's house. So, you know, a space for one house, right? But it was pretty sizable. And we would go around in a big old circle there until we wore a dirt path in there. And the neighbor kids would come over, and I would charge them a nickel or 10 cents or something to ride that thing for, I don't know, however many laps they could go, right? And at the time, a nickel or 10 cents would give me a comic book or some bubble gum or something down at the little store downtown. So I thought I was killing it. And, you know, my dad always had motorcycles. My dad always had bikes, you know. I have a picture of him with a 1958 Harley 1 month before I was born, him and his best friend leaving the little gas station that we owned in Emory, South Dakota, headed to Sturgis. And my mom was not happy. I remember him always telling me that, you know, here's a month before I'm supposed to be born, and he's riding to Sturgis, of course, because that's what you do, right? And always my dad had bikes. And so I got another Honda, a 400 Honda when I was 14 years old. So I had a motorcycle before I had a car. You can get your license in South Dakota when you're 14. And so my dad would just say, stay out of town and don't get in a bunch of trouble. Go out and ride your motorcycle, you know, if I was, you know, being anxious or, you know, whatever. And so like any kid, you know, of course you're racking up the miles and you're just learning to love motorcycles. And then you fast forward to high school, and I said, man, wouldn't it be cool if I ever could build a bike or build a car that would be in one of these magazines? That would be pretty cool, right? And you know, I didn't really expect that to happen. I just thought, wouldn't it be cool? And fast forward to today, where I've, you know, been in countless magazines, been so fortunate to now have a parts company that, you know, we sell stuff all over the world. It's nothing to ship, you know, parts to Spain or parts to Texas in a day. You know, it doesn't matter. And so I don't know. It's just crazy. But yeah, it was a green Honda QA50 is where it all began. And then people always ask me, they laugh when they see a Goldwing at my booth. And I said, well, my dad went on a trip when I was 17 years old, and I was at the gas station running the books day to day. I would end the day and fill out all the stuff. And my dad called me and he said, hey, Brian, he said, you know that Virago you own, right? The Yamaha Virago? I said, yeah, Dad, what's up? He goes, it's kind of small. I said, yeah, maybe for you, you know. And he goes, well, I traded it off. I'm like, what? You just took it because it was easy to load and you and Mom were going out to the hills, and you really traded it off? He's like, yeah, I bought a brand new Honda Aspencade. I go, well, that's good, Dad. Great for you. But what does that do for me? He goes, well, you can have my Goldwing. So at 17 years old, I owned a 1981 Honda Goldwing. Just what every 98-pound weakling wants to have, right? I mean, I was a skinny little kid. And so for me to be riding that Goldwing at 16, 17 years old, whatever it was ridiculous. And the only thing I learned was that if my cousin, Kevin Klock, would get on the back, he was a little bit of a daredevil as well. We could wheelie that thing all the way down Main Street, which was only 2 blocks, but it's still, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Made the kids giggle, so made me giggle. Didn't make my dad happy when he later found out that I was wheeling the Goldwing, but
that is awesome.
So I have an affinity for Goldwings. So now I own 3 Goldwings. I have the first Goldwing ever sold new in Mitchell, South Dakota, which my dad owned. And being the person that I am, when my mom and dad got divorced and we moved all of our stuff out of the shed and everything out of the house at home, and I took the motorcycle parts, right? And when I got the opportunity to buy this bike back, trade it back for a bike that I'd built, my dad said, why would you even want that thing? It's got this big fairing and this king queen seat and all this stuff. I said, yeah, Dad, but I have all the stock parts. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you left them in the shed and I took them. You kept that stock seat, the blinkers and the handlebar this whole time. I'm like, yeah, for sure. That's who I am, right? I got some really cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have the first new Goldwing ever sold in Mitchell.
And which was your dad's too.
What's that?
And that was also your dad's bike.
Yeah, it was my dad's bike. Yeah, it was my dad's bike. I mean, I have my grandma bought a 1964 Ford in 1968 or 66 from her uncle or from my uncle. And so my grandma bought this car from her brother. It's 2 years old, right? I still own that car. I have a 57 Chevy 2-door post. That's just like a barn find thing sitting behind the shop here. That belonged to my grandma on the other side. And then I have my first ever car, which is a 1970 Chevelle SS 396.
Ooh.
And it was gold with a black vinyl top. Somebody hit me when I was a senior in high school. So, of course, like any kid, I painted it red, put black racing stripes on it, and I should have left it gold. And so now it's going back to gold with the black vinyl top. My friends at Olean's Suspension have built me some really wicked shocks, so it has a great stance to it. And so I've owned that car since I was 16. So
that's sweet.
All of the history and all of the stuff means a lot to me.
I love it.
Awesome. I mean, that's something like with my Road Glide. The original owner was my dad, and 3 years ago, a Father's Day gift, I ended up getting that bike from him when he traded. Well, he got a new Road Glide, and he regretted that he had traded in the old one when I was going through a hiatus when I didn't have a bike. And it was such an awesome, moment when, I went up there because my stepmom made this big deal about how my dad needs to talk to me. And I was out of town, one of my sons at a baseball tournament. I'm trying to get a hold of him, and she would answer all the phones. I tried calling my dad's phone, she'd answer it. And finally, it's like, well, I can't be there. I'll see you tomorrow. And when I went up there, my dad had this awesome, speech made up about, he was so happy about how, my wife had raised her kids. They've been successful. Our daughter went to Wazoo. My son was going to college on a baseball scholarship. And, everything we devoted our lives, he goes, I really regretted selling my old bike and not giving it to you. He goes, the best thing I ever did, he goes, is I just went down and bought a brand new Road Glide. So the only, thing left to do is to give you the title to your Road Glide. He goes, so there it is, take it home. He goes, let's go ride. It's like, it was amazing. And, now that I have it, it's going to be one of those things where it'll never leave the family. When the time comes for it, it'll get a heart transplant, and, one of my boys or whatnot, they'll start riding it.
Yeah, that's the best. I mean, those are the kind of things. I mean, I think everyone can relate to that. I saw somebody type on there, I had that same green motorcycle, and I was like, wow, right on. That's a rare deal. I mean, not only did you have the same Honda, but you had a green one.
That was Craig Johnson.
Nice.
Mr. Wild
awesome.
Ass.
So what made you, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Brian.
So what made you, I mean, you've obviously ridden your whole life, but what made you decide to want to start a motorcycle company? I mean, that's a big step.
Yeah, I had a tumultuous couple of years. My brother sold a restaurant to some guys. Those guys owed my dad $60,000.
Oof.
My dad had done so much for me and gambled on every stupid idea I'd had. So I quit working and tried to go after these guys. It lasted a lot longer than I expected. They kept jockeying stuff around and the license for the video lottery casino and all that kind of stuff. And it took me 1.5 years to get it back. When I finally did, I told my dad, I said, I'm going to run it for you for a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to work on motorcycles this summer. He said, well, that's great, but you can't make any money doing that, so you better figure out what's next. I said, yep, I understand. And I never went back. I literally robbed Peter to pay Paul. I'd be putting on handlebars for this guy and doing oil changes and stuff. And this guy might say, Brian, I got $300. What can you do for my bike? Right. And then that turned into, Brian, I got $500. And then the next year it's like, Brian, I have $1,500 I'll give you right now. What can you do to my motorcycle? Right. And I would always try to do the hard stuff, if you will, whether it was a fender or, changing the stance on it or, handlebars, because I knew people were going to add the grips. They're going to put on their own pegs. They're going to put on their own gas cap. They're going to see something hanging on the wall at some shop or some Harley dealer, and they're going to that's the cool thing. That's what I want. Right. So I really went after that stuff. And then that just kind of kept the thing snowballing until we could actually build a few bikes. And the first bike I built officially happened in 1990. In the fall of 1990, I bought an FXRP, a police bike, under the guidance of Jim Betlock. And Jim used to work for Drag Specialties. And Jim even sent me a thermal fax, if you will. Those kind that, they'd roll up on you the minute it came out of the machine. And it was all the parts that he had bought from Drag Specialties and how to build this bike. And he's the one who told me, buy a cop bike because you're going to take it apart and they're cheaper and you're going to waste all the other stuff anyway because you don't need it, right? So don't go spend the money for a nice lowrider custom or something like that. So I did. I got one from Jim Intiman at J&L Harley in Sioux Falls. He happened to have one as a demo bike. And I bought that bike and I tore it apart, and it literally had it apart for 2 years. It took me 2 years because I was very picky. The internet wasn't a thing yet. You couldn't look up all the parts like that. So I had all these magazines laid around the house and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then try to come up with the money. Like $500 for a carburetor at that time was crazy, to buy a Del Orto carburetor, which is now $2,000. But at the time it was all relevant, right? I probably paid $7,000 for the bike, so.
Wow.
So that's really where it started. And then 2 years later, I built that bike, and the name of the bike was Iris. It was a purple color. And people are like, man, you're going to win the local car show or bike show. It's going to be so exciting. And I said, no, really, I'm doing this so I can go compete in Daytona. So I can compete in Sturgis. I want to win the Super Bowl. Like, I want to win the biggest one thing I can. And I knew I probably couldn't do it, but man, I shot for the moon, And
that's awesome.
So to look back now, and I remember, looking at a bagger called the Benchmark bagger when we were in our little garage. It was in a 700 square foot single car garage with no sign on the door, right behind the hair salon, which is right behind me. And that's where I got started. And, we went from a 3-car garage, and I was in one stall of the 3-car garage from this older gentleman, John Patton, who was my mentor. And we had built a turbo bagger. We took a turbo bagger to SEMA in 1995.
Nice.
So I kind of performance bagger. Somebody joked around and put a post up on Instagram yesterday and said, I'm home watching Amazon Prime has the Discovery Channel Biker Build-Off series from 06. And it was John Jessup from Dream Rides. And he said, I'm listening to Brian Klock say, if we make it lighter, faster, with bigger brakes, people really love it. I think it's going to make baggers cool. And then he put hashtag performance baggers. So I've been doing this a while, So that was 2006.
I'd seen read an article and I actually tagged you as the godfather of custom baggers.
That was in Vtwin magazine. And I was actually almost embarrassed by that because, Donnie Smith, Jim Betlock, all these guys had built cool baggers before me, right? I think it was just me taking that gamble of doing it and losing it if that was going to be the case in front of 3 or 4 million people when they knew I could build some cool chopper or a little bobber or, my team was capable of anything, right? And we chose to build a bagger. And that was the first time I ever kind of embraced failure, if you would, because I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of success, and both things are scary,
Absolutely.
So I'm going to duck my head down here for a second. I think I better plug my phone in. It's looking like it's going to die on you guys. I don't want to all of a sudden go black. What happened to Brian? He got hit by another flood. So hang on.
All right, no problem.
Okay, I'm back.
There we go.
So so the bagger thing was in God's perfect timing. Really, I gambled and I took that chance, and we won the build off, and I fully intended to lose it, and it was okay because all I wanted to do was get the attention that we could build stretch fenders, that we could build nice parts for baggers, and that we were your go-to guy for baggers, And then we ended up winning it. I think a lot of it was because it was in Sturgis and not because I'm from South Dakota. but because Sturgis is a pilgrimage, people ride to Sturgis. Like you trailer your bike to Daytona because it's 20 degrees, it's blizzarding. If you're in Ohio, if you're in New York, you're in South Dakota, it doesn't matter, right? When Sturgis hits in August, it's nice weather everywhere in the world. In fact, some places it's just damn hot, right? But it doesn't matter if you're in California, Texas, Florida, New York City, you ride to Sturgis. And if you rode to Sturgis one time, you made that pilgrimage, and it was huge. Like, you'll never forget the people you met, the hailstorm you went through, the bugs you got hit by, none of it, right? And the people that you had so much fun with. And so I think the bagger thing really resonated with those folks. And so I remember walking down the street 2 days later and people going, man, you did something. Finally, somebody did something cool for baggers. And then it was just this phenomenon, you know, because Bagger Magazine came out, American Bagger Magazine came out, all about 6 or 9 months after we did that build off. It really,
That's awesome.
I don't know. You know, it's humbling. I don't even know how to say it.
That's amazing.
I don't know why me, right?
But how cool is that you're a part of that history? And that's still, all these years later, one of the hottest categories in motorcycles. That's amazing.
It is. And there's so many young guys out there building so much cool stuff. And it's unbelievable. You know, it's really, truly, it's humbling.
Well, then, you know, and then 2012, you get inducted into the Sturgis Hall of Fame. I mean, that had to, you know, just be awesome.
I just hope. Okay, so let's go back to Brian Carroll of Why We Ride. Okay. If Brian Carroll ever releases the video of me from that year, he was there, and he filmed the whole thing, and I literally cried through my entire acceptance speech. I cry easy anyway, and I don't even care. It's one of those things I just embrace, right? And it was one of those deals where I'm like, I'm not getting down from here. I understand why I'm here. I'm okay with it. And I'm going to let people know how overwhelmed by emotion I am. I'm just going to keep going. And I looked out there, and Mike Corbin's sitting in the back, and Donnie Smith's over on this side. Willie G. Davison and Nancy are right down on the table in front of me because Steve Peel, who started Hog, was getting inducted with me that year. He was up on the board. And it was, you know, when you look out across that room and, you know, the Arlen Ness, Donnie Smith, Mike Corbin, all these guys and all these names that have just laid the groundwork for us, right, are sitting out there. Like, I don't feel worthy today. I didn't feel worthy then. You know, I'm humbled. I'm honored to do it. And I mean, by all means, there's nothing cooler than being inducted in the Sturgis Hall of Fame when you're a South Dakota kid. I'm from a town of 380 people, and there was 14 kids in my class. You know, like, I did it, right? I mean, I've been going to Sturgis since I was 8 years old. I'm now 55. So 47 years of Sturgis for me. That's hard to believe, right, for a lot of people. And yet my uncles lived in Spearfish. We'd go out and visit. I'd get to see a little bit of Sturgis, you know. It was awesome. And so for me, yeah, it's super crazy, right? To be inducted into something like that literally blows you away. I mean, I remember Willie G. Davison was at the Central Regional Hog Rally down in Kansas City. And it's the first show I ever put my bike in. We worked for 4 days straight, right? Bring the bike down there. We got it in the back of the truck. It's completely raining. It's just torrential downpour. And I pull up and they said, oh, kid, they called off the show.
Oh,
great. So my guys that I'm with go into the hotel. I literally fell asleep in the truck. I was just exhausted. And all of a sudden I get this rap on the window and the guy goes, hey, they're going to do the show. And so I wake up and I get the bike out, wipe it all off, take it over there. And my friends are like, man, you look like hell. You should just go to the room and get a shower at least, right? So I go take a shower. While I'm there at the shower, Willie G. Davidson comes by the show and stops and looks at my bike for about 20, 30 minutes. And of course I'm not there.
Oh.
So when I come back, I'm like bummed out about that, but then they call off the awards and they didn't even mention my name. Like I didn't even get like honorable mention or 4th place or nothing. Right. So I went up to the stage and I said, I don't understand. I said, I'll see you in a month. This is in July. I said, I'll see you in a month in Sturgis. And I'd really like to know what's the matter with my bike. The guy goes, which bike was yours? And I said, it's a 1990 FXRP. Oh, well, it's stock, he said. I'm like, with all due respect, like I changed everything from axle to axle. There's nothing stock about this motorcycle. He goes, well, you can bring it up here and I'll talk to you about it. Well, I went back there and I had this Cycle Shack 2-in-1, stupid loud exhaust on this thing, a Del Ordo carburetor sticking out, and I fired it up and I drive right through the crowd because, you know, they're all dispersing out of the things and they're everywhere, right? And I'm just mad and I can't help it. I'm driving right for this guy. And all of a sudden I see this person coming out of the corner of my eye and it's Willie G. Davidson. He's headed to the stage. I'm headed to the stage. And this guy is there. And this guy drops his head and he goes, oh, my God. I didn't call off your class. You won it all. You won Radical Custom. I am so sorry.
Oh.
And so that's how my career started with this FXR. And Willie G goes, man, I don't even know what to tell you. Come over here. Let's take some pictures. So we took some pictures by the Harley-Davidson semi. And, you know, he was just so nice to me and really complimentary about my bike. The next morning, I walked by the hotel and he's coming out the front door because there's something we're doing that morning. And he says, Mr. South Dakota, how are you? I said, good. He said, you know, I really think you have a future in this industry if you're interested in that. I said, well, I very much am, sir. In fact, I would hope that one day I'm one of the gentlemen of our industry, like Arlen Ness or Donnie Smith. And he started laughing. He goes, well, you know, you don't have to be a hamster to be one of the gentlemen of the industry. I said, I understand that, sir, but I look up to those guys. And so when I got inducted in 2012, I remember looking down at Willie G and saying, Willie, you know what, today I do feel like Mr. South Dakota. So that was a big moment for me to be that far down the road. You know, we built the windshields in 2008. Harley-Davidson made their version of it, if you will, in 2011. That was a huge blow to me. You know, when the wind splitter came out, I was crushed. I thought, man, I wish they would have just called me. I was so disappointed. And yet I didn't go get a lawyer. I didn't go sue them. I didn't want to be bitter about the brand that I built my whole life on. So I wrote a letter to Willie G and ultimately we ended up having a conversation about it. And he said, well, if you come up with anything else, Brian, let us know. We do love you and we'd like to do business with you. And, you know, I think it was just serendipitous that the good Lord gave me the gift of the windshield and we continue to sell more than my brain could ever comprehend to this day.
Can I, first off, that's the Americana story, right? I mean, you envisioned something and you became it. I mean, that's incredible. You mentioned the windshields. Now you're coming out with colored windshields. I saw in Sturgis. I saw some posts of that.
Yeah,
we can't talk about that, that's fine.
No. We launched them in Daytona, and we only took 10 of every color and certain sizes and shapes. And there were so many people we gave them to a couple social media influencers the week or two before. So the calls started coming in and people started getting on the list. And then I found a bunch of people that were in Daytona who wanted them. And so we sold them to them first because they were going to be in every performance bagger show, every, hot rod show there was, and be riding them all over Daytona and taking pictures on the beach, taking pictures by the speedway. And so that blew up. And now we're full on into production of colored windshields.
I can't wait to see those. That's very different. I mean, your windshield stands out awesome. As it is. You throw color on it. I mean, that just screams Klock Werks. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so many people are building so many crazy bikes, and the 80s and the 90s are kind of making a comeback. And people are doing fluorescent colors and crazy t-shirts and crazy glasses and all kinds of stuff. And so this just fit right in, and it just made sense because, I mean, back in the day, we'd want to have one of those on our sport bike, you know? And so performance baggers are the new sport bike in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. My dad's even tuned in watching.
How
Right
cool
on.
is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember scrolling through Facebook or if not Facebook, Instagram. I mean, it leaps right off the page.
Yeah.
You can't get any more than that. I mean, the windshield's already iconic in its shape, but that's awesome.
Oh yeah, then the colors that came out with, they are bright. I mean, definitely stands out, and it's gonna catch, it's gonna catch the eyes.
Yeah, we did the fluorescent versions first. It's just because that was going to make the biggest impact. And then now we're looking at doing, a regular red, a regular blue, a regular purple, a regular green, whatever we can come out with. And, I mean, there's some creative folks out there, and I love it because they're sending us comments on Facebook and on Instagram and saying, hey, what about this? What about that? Would you do this? Would you do that? And I just love to hear from them. It's great stuff.
Oh, blue would be
That's
cool.
awesome.
I got to check that out. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So what was it like, a few years back when you got a partner with Indian and Jack Daniels? I mean, that had been just a legendary experience. I mean, too.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I just saw. I caught myself earlier. I'm wearing my Jack Daniels hoodie. So that really, that whole relationship. I did a lot of stuff for Indian. Okay, and then I got a call from Robert Pandya and Gary Gray. Gary runs the Indian race team now, and they said, "Hey, we want to build a bike we're going to take." Number 7 of the first 1,901 bikes that Indian made, right? And we're going to dedicate it to Jack Daniels, and then we're going to auction it off at Bear Jackson. But it has to be all decorated up with Jack Daniels on it, all painted, not vinyl. And we only have 2 weeks. And I said,
pressure.
Okay, where's the bike at? And they said, well, it's at the factory in Spirit Lake, which is about 2.5 hours, 3 hours from here. And I said, all right, well, I'll be there tomorrow at noon. And I said, but you better book me a room in Phoenix, because the only way it's going to get there is if I drive it 24 hours myself to get there, 20 hours, I guess it is from here. And I'll do it. So when I got the bike, we did all the work on it, drove it to Phoenix, unloaded it. And all of a sudden this guy in this Jack Daniels golf cart pulls up, and it's David Stang. And Dave had been with Jack Daniels at that point, maybe 32, 33 years, something like that, right? So he says, hi, tell me your story. I said, well, I'm from a town of 350 people. There's 14 kids in my class. I've already done more than I ever thought I could do in the motorcycle industry. I did the biker build off and won it in 2006. I was inducted to the Sturgis Hall of Fame in 2012. And I am honored to be working with the #1 whiskey in the world at this event. That's what I said to him. And he goes, man, we're going to do some business together. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I like you. You're a small town kid who just gets it. You took this project on in 2 weeks and hustled your ass off to get here and did not gouge us, did not charge us some astronomical number. And I said, well, we're giving it back to charity. Like, it's for Operation Ride Home. It's to bring troops home for the holidays. And he said, well, I appreciate you. I'm telling you, this is going to be fun. The next day we come there and we're, rolling out barrels and selling stuff and doing stuff. And I'm just helping the Jack team. And we auctioned the bike off. It raised a bunch of money. It was great, right? The next year he calls me and he says, hey, I want you to build me a couple bikes. I want you to build one for Kevin Sanders, the barrel man, and then build me a black and white bike that is the Squire bike, right? The traditional Jack Daniels colors, like the black and white label. So I did 2 Indians, one that had barrel wood grain on it that Tex Effects painted for us. And it was a great.
Oh, we just lost your audio.
If you will, off the corners of the Jack Daniels bottle. And it was all hand pinstriped. And we debuted them at our pre-Sturgis party. And that really kicked off the project. And then in 2016, I got a call from Dave Stang, and he said, hey, I want to do a bike to celebrate 150 years of Jack Daniels. But keep in mind that Jack Daniels has never licensed a motorized vehicle, not a Ford truck, not a car, not a lawnmower, not a boat, nothing, because you don't mix gasoline and whiskey in the same sentence. It doesn't make sense, right?
Good point.
But if I can get this by legal, I want you to be my quarterback. I said, okay. Well, he called me back and he said, they're going for it. We're going to do it under the guise that bottles and throttles don't mix. Go drive your motorcycle, have a great time, enjoy your ride with your friends, get to the hotel or get to the house, sit on the porch or go to the hotel bar and have your jack and relive the day, right? Talk about your experiences. I'm like, perfect. I'm in. He goes, well, we got to make 150 bikes. I think you should do them, Brian. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that means I have to do 3 bikes a week. There's no way. There's no possible way. I said, I think we should team up with Indian and do this at the factory, because how cool is it if you're working at the Indian factory and a bike comes through and you get to build the next Jack Daniels bike? You know, there's number 74, there's number 75. And then I do 2 of these other bikes. And then now I get to do number 76, you know? I said, that's a thing. And so I said, I really feel like that's the way we should do it, right? And so Indian honestly thought we'd sell maybe 40 or 50 motorcycles if we're lucky. And I'll never forget, we were in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and Steve Bonetto was there, and Dave Stang, and all the folks from Indian and Jack. And we were in this little house, and we're sitting around this big barrel table, and Dave Stang says, listen, I'll kiss your ass in the window of the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day Parade if we can't sell 150 motorcycles. Am I clear? And I'm like, wow, so that's how you talk to the president of Indian Motorcycle. I'm like, what the hell just happened here, right?
Oh, man.
And they reached across the table and they shook hands and it was game on. So we started working on bikes, but I could only use factory Indian accessories. Well, keep in mind, we'd only had Indian back under the Polaris name for 2 years. So there wasn't anything to use. There was no good accessories really. You know, black gas caps or chrome gas caps. Those are your choices, you know. And we did the bikes and we unveiled them in Daytona. And I walked into the room and I didn't know that they were going to sell them that day. And so they'd gone on sale at 4 a.m. It's 10 a.m. And Dave Stang goes, man, if you're a little better looking, I'd kiss you on the lips. I said, easy, big boy. And he goes, what's up? And I said, he goes, man, we sold 110 motorcycles already. We did it, Brian. We did it. Well, we unveiled them to the international press. And by the time we got done, Steve Bonetto looked at the press. He said, oh, by the way, he pulled up his phone. He goes, they're sold out. 8 hours, 150 motorcycles, almost $3.8 million or whatever the number was raised for Polaris, which is a publicly traded company. So it was in Yahoo Finance, Reuters Finance. It made a big deal because that's a lot of cash to flow through. But if you wanted to be a dealer who got one, you couldn't put it on your floor plan. You had to have a customer and you had to pay for it right away. And so fast forward to Wednesday of that week at Daytona, and we met at this track, and Steve Bonetto got up on stage, and Dave Stang was dragging me to the track because I wanted to keep selling windshields. And we went there, and he said, come on, did you read your email? I said, no, I didn't read my email. He goes, oh, kid. I said, Dave, I don't have time for that right now. Bonetto gets up on stage and says, you can see number 1 and number 2 down here. And he said, of course, Jack Daniels owns number 7. He said, but what a deal. 150 bikes in 8 hours, never before done in history. But here's the news, Brian. You kept it all together because we were these big corporate entities and you just kept pushing and you were the glue. And so because of that, we didn't sell them all. And all of a sudden this bike started up and comes running through the crowd and comes to the stage and he goes, that's number 150 of 150. That's your motorcycle. You can ride it home right now.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was an emotional moment for me because Jack Daniels didn't have to do that. Indian Motorcycle didn't have to do that. I took on this job for free because I literally just wanted to be the guy. If Jack Daniels only did this once in their lifetime, it was going to be on my resume and my name was going to be on there that I designed the only Jack Daniels motorcycle ever made.
Wow.
And so my gift, my commission, my part of it was I own number 150 of 150.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
So pretty cool deal. And that company, that relationship with them, we are now into 6 years of Jack Daniel's Indian motorcycles. We thought the next year nobody's going to care, right? So we lowered the number to 100 and sold them in 10 minutes.
Jeez,
10 minutes, 100 motorcycles, right? And so I didn't get one, and I was like, man, I should have bought the last one. What was I thinking, right? And my wife tricked me. We went to Sturgis, and we literally were up on the hill where it says Sturgis. Jack Daniel's rents the house above that. We're having lunch and our dinner up there, and I'm sitting with Mike Corbin, and we're sipping on a whiskey and eating some pork. And they said, we'd had a great year. We did 100 bikes, sold them in 10 minutes, and you can't have number 7, but we could give you number 1. And so Jack Daniel's the Indian Motorcycle gifted me number 1 of 100.
Wow.
And since then, we've sold number 1 for Operation Ride Home for the charity. We sold that first year. We sold that bike for $150,000 at Bear Jackson. It lives in a New York City museum right now.
Wow, that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, so we've done so many great things with those guys, and I just love being part of the Jack Daniel's Indian family. I love my Harleys, right? I won the biker build off on a Road Glide. I have a new 2020 Road Glide I use. My wife rides a 2018 Softail with an FXRP fairing on it. I'm working on an FXR right now, but I just love motorcycles. I don't care if you're riding a Goldwing, a Vaquero, a BMW. By the way, I'm tricking out a new R18. I love them. I just love motorcycles. Yes. How do you go wrong? I feel almost like as cool as Craig Johnson from Wild Ass, right? He's got a BMW, he's got a Road King, he's got some little dirt bike, he's got these cool RC cars. So, Wild Ass Craig, you're my hero.
Hey, Wild Ass Craig is a pretty cool guy.
He is.
We became great friends, and it's a lot of fun. The conversation, getting little random phone calls from him, and he's super cool guy that I'm, honored to became friends with. It's all pretty cool.
That's an incredible story.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I could fill up your whole podcast. I'm sorry, but it's just, I have incredible stories, because if you're good to people, people will be good to you. And my life in the motorcycle industry is indicative of that. I'm so fortunate for all the people that have come in and out of my life, people that have been on my team, and I'm honored to be the quarterback, right? You're going to get crucified if you lose the game, and you're going to be in the headlines, but you're also the guy who gets to be in the headlines if you win the game. And so just to be the quarterback is a lot of responsibility, but it's one that is a gift to me. I'm very fortunate.
It's awesome. And that's exactly why I started this, is stories like that. Some people might not hear, but now these stories are going to live forever. And for you sharing these stories is just awesome. I'm honored to hear them and to be able to share them. And, for you coming on, it's awesome.
Well, I would sure do it again. If you ever need more stories, I got more. Believe me of that.
Oh, hey, any day
that's awesome.
Come back, I would have you on anytime.
Well, I sure want to make sure that everybody knows 25 years of Klock Werks. We started a little pre-Sturgis party. Actually, it was my ex-wife, Laura, who kind of kicked this thing off and said, we're going to do this deal. And I said, don't you dare bring those people here, because we're already busy, right? And now what turned into about 100 people just eating tacos and throwing some beers in a tub is now 5,000 people downtown Mitchell on a Thursday night.
Wow.
So August 4th, before Sturgis kicks off on the 5th, Sturgis really goes into gear on Friday the 5th. Come to Mitchell, South Dakota. If you're coming anywhere from the east, or even if you want to ride past it on the west and then come to our party, we would sure invite you. We always have some good entertainment, some fun. We've got a new distribution center here. We just got finished. We're remodeling our main shop, and we'll be open here all day, having an open house. We'll have a food truck here.
Nice.
We're trying to get Holly Hoffman from Survivor to come. We've invited Governor Nome to lead the parade. if we can get all this pulled together, it'll be an epic way to celebrate 25 years. And please come. Right, you're all invited. I mean, come to the pre-Sturgis party.
That's awesome.
It's 15 years of the pre-Sturgis party and 25 years of Klock Werks, and we would love to host you in Mitchell, South Dakota.
That is awesome.
Wow.
And in case you're listening, book your hotel rooms now because it will be full.
Yeah.
So what does the future lead for you or bring for you? I mean, because you've branched out, you're doing fenders, you're doing handlebars. I mean, you're doing so much more. You've partnered with Dixon, you have your own line of shirts. I mean, so the first 25 years took you here. Where do you see the next 10?
The next 10 really, we acquired a magnetic phone mount company, and I was leading that cause in power sports. And while not everybody has a motorcycle, everybody does have a phone. Mm-hmm. And so we've got some really cool solutions for that. And I'd been selling them since 13. I thought, well, we're never going to get there. Somebody's going to come out with something newer, cooler, whatever. But this thing is still relevant, and I'm excited about that. Nice. We got some real young guns on our team now, and I'm excited to teach them. We're going to be cutting apart a Sportster that we're putting a rigid kit on and making something out of that. I'm having these guys work with me on some of the FXRs and some of the other parts. We'll stop even the distribution center, and we'll suddenly be talking about rake and trail, right? Because at the end of the day, I know it's for me to light the torch for others. My wife, Vanessa, is much younger than me, and she's a badass. She is so financially smart. The company's in a great spot. She continues to lead the charge there. And I'm fortunate, like Dave Sietsma, Cowboy Dave, he's been my GM now, been with me for 13 years. Jason Hansen, another 13-year guy, right? These guys have been here a long time. And so for them to take, a guy who's only been here a year, 2 years under their wing and teach them is super fun. The windshield thing, I'm just going to keep going. I mean, as long as people will buy our windshields and as long as we can make a difference in their motorcycle, really, that's the key. Sometimes we're not always the quickest to market, but I'm only going to make the part if I can make a difference in your ride. And we love our customers. They're so loyal to us. They'll say, this is my 9th windshield. This is my 3rd one. I got a brand new 2022 CVO, Brian, and I rode it 14 miles and I came here just to put windshield on. You're the first stop.
That's awesome,
man. Yeah. How do you, I don't know, if I could just do 10 more years of that, I would do 10 more years of that because people are so good to Klock Werks, right? And I believe Klock Werks is so good to them. My guys really pride themselves on customer service. We meet every morning, 22 of us in a circle and we pray, go on about our day. We talk about how your kid did at track. We talk about a customer that's pissed off. Whatever it is, we just want to figure out, how can we help them? That's the key. So did I just see somebody post up they got 3 Klock Werks windshields in their garage right now?
That would be the professional monkey. Why, yes.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you. It's fun. For me, it's just very fortunate. And I appreciate just the fact that you guys would care enough to even have me on here. This is a big deal for me. So I appreciate it.
This is a huge deal for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honored that, I can understand the week you've had, all the time you spent in Daytona, getting back to South Dakota, and for you taking time to come on here and talk bikes with us. I'm honored. And, thank you very much for that.
I have to go ahead. I was going to say, I'm very, very touched by your humility of what you've done and the fact that, you're passionate about your religion and you've brought so much to the community. And like I said, pre-show, I mean, it really was, that movie really inspired me to be, bigger than I was to ride. So thank you for all you've done for the community.
Well, I think then that means you should just go on the Why We Ride to the Quail, and we should just meet up in California and ride up to the Quail Gathering up in Monterey, which is an epic motorcycle event. And so they do it every year. And so Why We Ride to the Quail, They're selling tickets now for it. It's a charity event. We raise money for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. So if you're interested in that, anybody that's listening out there and you want to go for a little ride with some old fogies like me, come on.
That's right up my alley.
Happy to roll up the coast with you in May. So
I was disappointed I didn't get a chance to go to. Yeah, that's Deborah's backyard.
Nice. Well, we should hook up for sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm up in Washington State. Brian's on the wrong side. He's over there in New Jersey.
Right on. Well, that means he's coming right by. He's perfect prime candidate for the August 4th pre-Sturgis party.
There you go.
Heck yeah.
My stepdaughters, Erica and Carly, both land speed raced. My daughter Ashlyn is 12 and she's a middle school show choir fanatic. I don't know if she'll get into the motorcycle thing or not. It's up to her. I don't really care, right? She just is a very talented, gifted singer, super bright young lady. And I have a 20-month-old son. His name is Cargo, Kargo. And Cargo has now completed 2 Sturgises and 2 Daytonas, and he's not even 2 years old. And he loves motorcycles and loves motorcycle people and loves going to these events. So when you ask me what the next 10 years hold for me, Bri, I'm just going to feed into these kids and see what happens.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's, like I said, it's amazing. Your stories and your passion are just, it's great.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you guys. Do you have any other questions for me or anything I can answer? I don't want to ramble on. I feel like
this is
this has been awesome.
I don't. I'm a little speechless, to be honest. So product wise, you were saying that you don't really know Shore, but you're teaching. You're basically building the future of the motorcycle community, which I think's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm feeding into guys who are making products. I'm feeding into other companies. Terry Vance is a huge mentor for me. Tom Motzko from Drag, another mentor for me. Those guys shaped who I am and where I'm at. I recently was out, touring Mike Corbin's shop, and Mike really feeds into me as well. And, like who can say that, right? And so whatever I can do to light the torch for somebody else, I'm going to do it. When we were at Arlen's funeral service out in California, it really struck me that, at my age, I'm the next torchbearer. I have to do what I can do. And I believe that there's no reason for us to be divisive. I don't care if you ride a performance bagger or you ride a Sportster or you ride an FXR or you ride a BMW or you ride a Goldwing. What can you do for the greater good of motorcycling? And that's really what Why We Ride, the movie, did for so many folks. And I think that's a key. You mentioned the Dixon flannel thing. I have a great story about that. When I called Danny Dixon the first time, he said, you need to make 600 shirts. Well, then the popularity took off. The next time I called him, he said, you need to order 800 shirts. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I could do that. And he goes, well, is this really Brian Klock? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, then let's do it. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a fan. He goes, I worked at Harley dealerships and parts counters my whole life before doing the shirt thing. And he goes, I would love to do a shirt with you. So we did it, launched it at Sturgis in 2019, sold out all the shirts, and he gave me 30 days, right? 30 days to pay, which was epic. Very, very kind of him. And so I sent him the check. Vanessa sent him the check. I don't do anything. Vanessa's a smart one. Vanessa sent him the check. And then September 11th of 2019, it was my daughter Carly's birthday, and the shop flooded. 3-4 feet of water through the whole shop, 11 inches of rain in an hour, $1 million worth of loss, and it's not covered by insurance.
Oh.
And Danny Dixon, the photos I put up there went viral in 24 hours. There were over 1 million views of them. And Danny saw it. And I got a text from Danny, and it was a little video clip. And he literally said, oh, would you look at this? Klock Werks, $41,000. ripped it up. He goes, your money's no good here. He goes, I tell you what, I never understood why people were so fanatical about Klock Werks. But after spending 2 days with your team, 1 day at the pre-Sturgis party in Mitchell where we launched it, right? He was there. And then he rode the next day with Vanessa and a few of the other folks. I think it was John Reedy, the flat tire guy, maybe, and his wife Whitney from Phoenix. They rode out to Sturgis and they got caught in some serious rain. And he goes, man, your wife is a badass. She didn't even let off. And I asked her if she wanted to pull over. She's like, no, let's just keep rolling. And so Danny said, he goes, being there with your people, eating dinner with them, hanging out with them, watching what they do at the shop. He goes, please put it all back into that place and make it better for them. So we were able to go out and buy sheetrock, buy insulation, tear out the front of the shop, and we did make it much better. And now we're working on the back of the shop. And so we've got that all tore apart too right now, trying to fix it. But since then, we've done multiple Jack Daniels, Dixon flannel collaborations. We've done another Klock Werks collaboration. We've done the Klock Werks party shirt, the cooler shirts, actually Todd, one of the security guys, is one of the right hand for Eric Church. He always wears his. You see him. There's some Eric Church sightings because he's always up there on stage wearing his Klock Werks shirt. And
I've seen some of those pictures.
That's so fun for me. Like, those are the little connections that just make working your tail off so worth it. And I mean, one of those things would be lucky, right? And I get a bunch of them. I feel like I'm the luckiest kid ever. So,
that's freaking so cool.
So yeah, so Danny Dixon, whether you love his shirts, hate his shirts, feel like he's a sellout because they're made in China or whatever, I don't really care. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's been good to me. He's been good to my family. The shirts are amazing. They wear great. And he's a good human. He has a good heart. He stepped in the gap when I needed him most.
And that speaks volumes. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yep.
It's like you said, it's the community.
Yeah, the one thing that amazes this community, I mean, from the YouTuber creator side, there's not anybody that I shouldn't say there's not anybody, right? Because obviously there are those people, but there's so many people that would reach out to help you. And it's great that seeing companies like yourself that have that camaraderie with other companies. It's not you versus them. It's bringing the community up. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's not, like the community is not all roses. Like, when people are copying your windshield or knocking you off, that's frustrating, right? And yet you got to give them the grace and you got to just do what you do. Arla Ness told me, Brian, put your blinders on and make it happen. Do it Brian Klock's way, right? And so I've been trying to do it Brian Klock's way for now 25 years. And the beauty of it is, to get guys like Danny Dixon, people that step in the gaps for you, they believe in my team. They don't really care that there's a Brian Klock, right? It's about Klock Werks. It's about what Klock Werks does for the industry. It's about what Klock Werks does for customers. And for me, that's a blessing, right? Like, I wish my last name wasn't Klock. I wish I could just hide, right? And just let my team shine because they're just amazing. Like, I'm so fortunate. All the people who have ever worked here, ever been here, ever done anything with this brand. As I look back on 25 years, I can't do anything but thank you. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, and a lot of that comes from, it stems from you. You've been there to build this brand. You went out on a limb and your product means a lot to everybody. I mean, the quality, but, people are going to want to support more than just that product. They understand, some people read the back scenes and read the other articles and see how much more you put into things and are going to want to also support that because, you do so much more for the community than just your brand. The stories you've told.
Well, I just had a guy tonight. I popped on social media and there was a guy who, said, yeah, I bought this Memphis Shades windshield and it's so much better than Klock Werks and and it's this and it's that. And I'm like, I wanted to get on there and say, congratulations. I'm happy for you. 2,000 people don't want pepperoni pizza. I say it all the time. It's okay. Like, I'm just happy you're happy, dude. But why do you got to hate on me?
Well,
why can't you just talk up good about the product you bought versus this versus that guy, right? Well,
that is such
now I have this bullseye on my back. I'm number one, and so everybody wants to see you fall.
Well, I think that's when you've arrived, right? Unfortunately, when the haters show up, you've arrived, because everybody wants to put you down, right? Because it seems like in this world, negativity sells more than, or at least gets the attention more than positivity, and when you see the amount of shields that you have out there, I mean, come on. That's always the problem with doing a review. You do a review on something, you can get 100 people that have a different opinion. It's just one person's opinion. That's a shame.
Well, and and Brian's stake, Brian has one of your windshields. He's, speaks highly of him. We've talked about this before. He's got a Klock Werks and loves it.
Well, and I mean, I don't think you're going to find anybody else in this whole industry that's going to tell you that the windshield actually makes your bike handle better. A stock bike has 30 pounds of lift. This applies 15 pounds of downforce. When you go buy a semi and feel a little bit of this, it's like putting a spoiler on your motorcycle.
Yeah.
The glasses aren't doing this anymore because there's a dead pocket of air here. The stereo sound's coming at you better, and you can actually have a conversation with your passenger if you so desire. And, it's just it's a sexy part.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, there's windshields and then there's your windshield. When it makes my ultra limited look sexy, you've arrived, right? That blacked out shield, you take the top box off, it's a whole new bike.
Right.
Yeah, it's really badass for sure.
Well, we appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much, Brian. This has been awesome. I mean, I love, in a couple months, get you back on, or, if you got stuff coming out and you want to spread the word, hey, I'd be honored anytime to have you back on. I mean, this has been just absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you guys, and we'll make sure and share it on our channels as well. Yeah. I'm always not the best at that because I'm usually running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I do all of our social media stuff as well. I got a few of my employees who answer the questions on the backside and do some of that kind of stuff. But what people don't understand is there's 22 people running this whole brand. That means the guys at Daytona that you talk to, we're the shippers, we're the sourcing people, we're the accounting people, we're the general manager, we're the mechanics, right? We're just, we're small town kids that really are just going for it. If you ever come by exit 332 in Mitchell, South Dakota, and don't stop, it's your own fault. We're only 6 blocks off the interstate. And if you walk in the door and there's someone breathing here, they will give you a tour. They will show you around. You can see the motorcycles. I keep a lot of them. I've got the Cherry Bomb. I've got the world's fastest bagger. I've got my S&S 50th bike. I've got old FXRs in here. I've got some of the old Hondas in here. So come on by. We'd love to see you and love to show you around Mitchell.
That would be amazing.
There in June.
Wow.
It is a planned stop when I come over for June for the Hoka to see all those guys off. I am making the trip down there to come say hi.
All right, deal. Well, thank you guys a lot. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you for all you've done for the community. Really appreciate it.
Hang on a sec, Brian. So, hey, actually, where everybody can find you, Klock Werks, you want anything you want to say before in closing, where they can find you and whatnot?
You can find us at Klock Werks. It's KLOCKWERKS, custom with a K, cycles on Facebook. And it's just at Klock Werks on Instagram. And then, of course, we've stepped into the UTV side of life. So we have Klock Werks Off-Road. We've got the phone mount thing. So Klock Werks IO mounts. And then, of course, our cleaning product, which is Shineworks Official.
That stuff is awesome.
Yeah, that's another one of those deals where a guy walked up behind me, goes, "Why do you have all those products?" I go, "Because they suck." And I kept working, and the guy stayed right there. And I was like, "Oh man, I think I offended this guy." And I looked over, and he's like, I said, let's start over. My mom would not be real proud. I'm Brian Klock. And he goes, "I know who you are. Tell me why you don't like them." I told him this works good in the shade. That works good in the sun. This one's a little greasy. That one's got a little more wax. And he goes, "Wow, one of them is mine." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he goes, No. I'm interested because you really know your stuff. And he goes, "I'm a chemist. Let me make you what you want." So all these variations later, smells later, contents of a thing later. We tried them all. And I said, I don't really care if I ever sell this stuff. I just want to have it at my booth, because when you pull up on your $30,000, $40,000 motorcycle, you really don't even want me touching it, honestly, me or any of my guys. Okay. That's just how motorcycle riders are. They have a lot of pride in their bike, right? And so we're trying to clean it up, make it the nicest we can. And that stuff has taken off so much so that we now sell it even on Amazon Prime, because we cannot get every dealer convinced that there's really another cleaning product out there that someone should use, because of course everybody's got 10 products in their garage already. But once you have it, once you love it, you can buy it on Amazon Prime. Just so you know, you don't have to pay shipping on a $15 or $16 bottle cleaner, whatever it costs. You can get it anywhere. So
awesome.
Amazing.
Wait, thank you so much. This has been an absolutely awesome. I mean, hearing, all these stories, and, it's been super cool, man. I can't thank you enough for, coming on.
Well, I look forward to seeing everybody again. Please come to Sturgis. I will see you in May at the Why We Ride to the Quail. I will be there. We ride right up the coast. We leave from Moore Park, California, have a little breakfast, and it's a 2-day ride. It's a real quick weekend, but it's for a good cause, and it's super fun, and we get treated like champs at the Quail. They give us our own little kind of VIP parking, and the food there is insanely amazing, and it's an epic show. There's always, some sort of themed thing, or somebody brings out their personal collection of stuff to show off there, and it's just fun. So
that's awesome. I'll check it out. Well, thank you very much. Hey guys, check it out. And hey, this has been an awesome milepost. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, ride safe, have fun. We'll see you guys on the open road.